First time I walked into this baby and infant toddlers orphanage in 1992, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for what I was about to see. I still get pretty choked up when I go back in my memory and remember walking in here. It was just overwhelming. Seeing the children staring out of their cribs at you. In many ways, the Father's House story, the story of Father's House Orphanage and children's homes began just meters from where I'm sitting right now. I'd like to invite you just to come with me and walk back a few steps into the history of Father's House, where everything began. And as we journey together, we'll see where lives that were able to be rescued, some a few years ago, others many years ago, have been transformed into beautiful young people. Probably the thing that broke my heart the most is when you would pick up children and they just wouldn't track with you anymore. They hadn't been touched, they hadn't been loved, they hadn't been had human contact, and it was like their eyes had glazed over and something had just shut down in their little souls. And so it was walking into this environment saying, we can't just walk away. What can we do to help? What can we do to care? How can we bring God's love in a practical way to these orphans that have no hope? And with that question, the Father's House journey was born. Behind me here to the left and the right were the two buildings that were used as part of this children's orphanage in the city of Mediaș in central Romania. So remember this place of pain, and yet I have to affirm there were Romanians trying to care and love for these children with such limited resources, the staff trying their hardest, some of them but in an almost impossible situation in a sea of orphaned and abandoned children. And so the first phase of Father's House, which began with the inception of CAIRD in 1997, was to bring help and bring people into the government orphanages to help the children. Staff would tell us it was very difficult to potty train the children, as an example, and this really moved my heart. And they finally figured out, because the one time a day where a child would have one-on-one interaction with an adult for a few moments was when their diaper was changed. So while we were able to bring help to the children in the government orphanages and spend time with them there, we just saw them as very broken little people who weren't getting the love they needed and the care, just a number and suffering. Someone once said, a child is like an elastic. You can stretch them so far, but if you go too far, they'll never come back to what they were originally meant to be. And we saw that in these precious lives that were just so broken and hurt and didn't really know what love or belonging was all about. So the conclusion we came to was it was time to look at starting our own orphanage. Children started coming to Father's House. Some of them came from the government orphanage with so much pain in their hearts. Others never had to set foot in the government orphanage. They came directly to Father's House. Parents who had died, children that were abandoned, children that had suffered so much. And each one we just received as a gift from God. So after about 2.5 years of Father's House, on a trip to Romania, I had an evening where I was with the children and always enjoyed praying with them before they'd go to sleep. A pivotal moment happened when I sat down with a little boy to say his nighttime prayer, and I was expecting him to thank God for the food and the clothing and all the things, the toys that Father's House was providing for them. But his prayer started completely differently. He started by praying this. He said, "Dear God, would you please give me a mother and a father?" And at that moment, I was shocked. But a transition began to happen, understanding for the first time that while these other things are really important, the thing that a child, an orphan child, an abandoned child, wanted the most was a mother and father, not a teddy bear. At that point then, we sat down as a team and looked at things and said, of course, how can we expect our little girls to grow up to be loving wives and mothers, and our boys to grow up to be committed and loving husbands and fathers if they've never had that model? And so we began to ask our staff, would you be willing to take 2 or 3 children into your family? And many of them are willing to do that with the support and supervision of Father's House. And all of a sudden, these children got to say the 2 words that they longed to say most of all, which were Mom and Dad. 2 children that came early on to Father's House as it was operating as an institutional children's home were Alexandra and her brother. They later transitioned to a Father's House family. Here's a little bit of Alexandra's story.
I came to Father's House at age 4. That is where I met Mihaela. She is the person whom I called Mom, and she took care of us at Father's House. She would always take my brother and I to her parents' house on holidays and weekends. Her parents loved us very much, and they decided that they wanted us to become part of their family, and that's how our life began. A memory that I have from Father's House was a craft. Along with the people who took care of us, we would make picture frames, and all around the sides we would stick this round color cereal, and we stuck them on with glue, and after everything was done we would put all the frames up on the wall. We would climb up onto the couch and pull off the round color cereal, then we would eat it. Oh, and they were so good. Oh, all of us children climbing up the couch trying to pull off cereal from the picture frames.
Moving children into families has had an incredible impact on their lives. Let's go for a visit to a Romanian village and see one of our Father's House families.
These 2 children were thrown away somewhere outside by their parents. They were both found inside an apple crate. When Marcel was first brought here, he was 1 year and 9 months old. We couldn't get him to sit down. I would have to hold him. He was full of fear and he would bite. He was always crying and angry. He would bite his arms. Miriam was just 11 months old and only weighed 4 pounds. But now they have both grown up and we get along with one another. But my prayer is that God would continue to give them wisdom, love, and understanding, and that they will remain rooted in Him. Even though we have told them that we are not their biological parents, they still call us Mom and Dad. We thank the Lord and our Canadian friends for the great help they have been for us. We don't have enough words to thank you for all you are helping us with. We basically had no help from no one. God has worked in our lives, and we thank you.
With orphaned and abandoned children being raised in families, the role of Father's House then is to support those families. And we do that by monthly meetings where we bring parents together to encourage them, provide training, camps where we bring all our Father's House families together and celebrate being together as one big family. And together with our friends and partners, we provide financial resources to the families who are raising the children, love and care for them, but need help in order to be able to provide for their clothing, their medical needs, food, educational needs, to see them raised as happy, healthy children.
3 years ago, I finished high school in the town of Mediaș, and I was wondering what I should do with my life. I wasn't decided on the university I wanted to go or what I wanted to do, but I decided that I would go to the University of Pharmacy. I've remained here, I have finished my schooling, and now I'm waiting my wedding. I've known my fiancé Ghiță since I was 7 or 8 years old, but we were never interested in one another. We never liked each other. And about 3 years ago, we started a relationship. It was more than just friends. And we have realized that we were made for one another. To me, God is the only one who has stood by my side. Through Him, I received a family and all the blessing that I have. I am so grateful for all I have received. I want to continue to serve God. I love Him so much, and I know that He wants to use me.
At Father's house, we've really come to believe that one child is so much, that each child has incredible value. But we want to do more than just respond to the needs of orphan and abandoned children that they have today. We want to see them as future men and women, future husbands and wives, future mothers and fathers. And together with our Father's House team and our partners and friends, we want to help them get there with a heart full of love and faith, and do that by seeing them raised in a family full of love.
Will you hold me in your arms as I rest on your knee? Won't you tell me my favorite story?